Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hypotheticals. Those bells are tolling for something important because it's Hypotheticals on a semi-regular basis, and the celebrations are in. So, Tommy, first of all, how you going, mate?
I'm great, mate. I feel like I'm disclosing my undisclosed location. Hopefully, the red buses don't give me away. But look, mate, just pumped to be here. I've moved on from the Bucks' defeat. We'll get more into that later, but still enjoying the playoffs. Keen to see how it pans out, but definitely still got dogs in the race. So, yeah, I'm good, mate.
Okay. Well, let's you know what we might do? Let's start with who are you most excited for to head into the NBA finals, and we'll start with that team and we'll start working around the league. So who are you most keen for? Who's your team that you're most happy for in the playoffs so far?
I feel like the team I'm really bought into at this stage is the Nuggets. Just because I feel like they're the most wholesome team. They play really good basketball, like team ball. Jokic is like the most underrated double MVP in existence somehow. And Jamal Murray's cooking. I really thought they were going to sweep the Suns, and they didn't, which makes me even more want them to get through. So yeah, Nuggets my first pick.
Wow. Okay. And who's at the bottom of the list for you? I mean, obviously it's the Celtics. Actually, right?
You're spot on, mate.
So, all right. So, for me, I think it's switched a little bit, and I think for me, it's now the Lakers. And with that, I'm going to dive into a burning hot take that I took away from today's game. All right.
Go on.
All right. So, are you ready? So, here's what I think. So, I watched the game today, and I watched how LeBron was playing, and for me, when I watched this game and I watched this win, what I took away is that this could be an opportunity for LeBron to not only win this year, but to win next year.
Huge take.
Huge take.
Huge if true. Huge if true. That is a scorcher, mate. Care to please explain?
Okay, so it was actually it all really kind of boils down to two things. One is that he's been able to play as the second or third best player on the Lakers for the last couple wins, and the team still crosses the finish line. And second of all, today, Lonnie Walker has no points heading into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He scores 15 in the fourth quarter, and part of that is because LeBron James started setting screens for him, okay? So, which is huge, right? Because it's meaning LeBron is trying to set up his teammates. To me, this is like, I think this is a secret net LeBron maybe taking the step into the next part of his career, which is like kind of Magic Johnson-y type play. Nikola Jokic-y type playing. And I feel like, jump in.
Well, he's kind of been there in some sense for the last few years anyway, because I feel like he can only drop like 25, 30 once every like 5 or 6 games. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't have the gas anymore. So he's going to go more and more to that assist, like, screen and roll kind of man. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, but so I agree. But I think the thing is he's accepted that a little bit. And what's happened is and he's trusted his team. You know, Austin Reeves turns out actually is like the perfect sixth man for any team. He's like, does a bit of defense, can hit threes, playmaker, everything.
He's the new Caruso.
He's the new Caruso. But I think it's like if he can get a good game out of Lonnie Walker, he can get a good game out of D'Lo, he can get a good game out of Rui. Someone's going to go for 15 out of those three. And I think what that means is he can trust his team. And if he becomes like a role player, second, third option, he's probably one of the best because he's so intelligent. It's like Chris Paul, but he's 6'8" and built like LeBron, So I could see this not being only this year's chip, but potentially even him, if he steps into this and the rest of the team accepts their roles, him hitting the 6 rings.
I think I'm gonna match and raise you.
I love it.
He's gonna get the chip. They're gonna have another crack at it next year because they're gonna get another second option, someone like Kyrie on like almost like a veteran, like 1 year cheap deal, come here and win a ring. and that'll be the way that they get that, I reckon.
Mm.
Because I think that now that they've had a semi to deep playoff run, which again could continue and it's looking good, it'll attract. You know what I mean? People will be like, oh, I want to come to the Lakers a bit more. So that's what I reckon, Matt.
I like it. Anyway, so that's the scorching hot take off the top there. But speaking of scorching hot, we wanted to do this ideally last week. Speaking of scorching heat, we wanted to do a segment where I'm saying, Eric Spoelstra, hand me some cash because I want a heat check.
Heat check.
That's the heat check.
We need a jingle or something. We need like a little...
Even just like a flame sound, you know. I'll work on post-production. So tell us about your thoughts on the Heat series, Jimmy Butler, because we haven't touched base since the Bucks lost. We did. But straight after. Briefly. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you're finding Jimmy Butler and the Heat in general. Up 3-1 on the Knicks.
I mean, they're looking great, to be honest. I feel like the thing that the Heat do that Spol does, he just exposes poor coaching and poor play. So, like, one thing I've noticed just with the New York series, and this happened to us, but in a different way. In the New York series, Julius Randle, exposed as someone who only takes terrible shots, doesn't get back on D, and is definitely overrated. And Spoelstra's just exposed him so much. And I feel like, in some sense, that's what happened with us. In that he exposed Bud as someone who just won't ever adjust. And so I kind of look at this current New York series and I think, like, Tibbs is adjusting heaps. They're like triple teaming Jimmy. They're rushing him, like blitzing him and stuff. And it's like, man, we might have actually had a series of it if we made even a single adjustment. So I think the Heat will come off. I think they will literally limp to the conference finals and then just get absolutely pummeled by the Celtics. Like, they'll get decimated. But yeah, I don't know. Like, Spoelstra manages to just pull out of his backside lineup after lineup that can actually play. And I don't know how he does it, but he does.
Man, well, okay. So you think, okay. So I think we're both in agreement that the Heat's going to move on from the series. I just think that they've done what they've done to the Bucks, where they just bullied them, and then eventually they're just like, we're just the bully. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think they've done that to the Knicks now. My question is, why can't they do that to the Celtics? The Celtics, to me, feel like a very bullyable team. Like, if there was a team left in the playoffs that I think I could bully, it's probably them. It's just them, because I feel like their coach doesn't seem as hard as and intense as Ime last year. And I will give you, they have grit. Sorry to interrupt. I feel like the Heat have the kind of grit that maybe the Celtics don't have. Like, they'll get dirty with it. You know what I mean? Like, not in plays, but just like they'll die for the ball. Any next man up is actually like, I feel like they're just hungrier for it. You know what I mean? Anyway, go on, sorry. Yeah. No, so I kind of agree. And I just kind of think that they're going to be hungry, but also I feel like if there's a year to get under people's skin on the Celtics, I feel like it's kind of this year. Marcus Smart has been playing pretty average. Like, he just this season, you know, he had a couple of good moments. But he's been pretty average. He's someone you could get under the skin of. Easy. I think you can get under Tatum's skin. Butler would be the person who could probably be on Tatum. So I kind of love that. And I just feel like maybe they still lose to the Celtics, but I think they can really kind of put a bit of heat, as it were, on them. Because they're just that kind of team where it's like, if there's a mental weakness, that's what they're attacking also, as well as what you're talking about with Spo being just a great coach who can make the adjustments that are required.
Yeah. And I just feel like someone, like, you're spot on with the Tatum thing. I just feel like he can get in his head. I don't know if you saw, like, the Philly game the other day where he just literally scored one bucket right at the end of the first half. And he just looked he was playing like Julius Randle. He was just taking awful, like, deep fadeaway twos, just like threes that were semi-contested, but he just like blew them, like just bricked them. And yeah, I just felt like, I don't know, you can I can see him being neutralized. Even someone like Strauss or Strauss, whatever his name is, just throw a body on him and just beat him up. You know what I mean? And he'll just start whinging to the refs, and then that's a wrap. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, and he also, I think he's kind of got that thing where he also is from the Kobe mentality, where it's like just ISO me if we need a bucket,
Yeah,
and then I think the Heat are actually really well equipped to deal with that.
that's what they want. That's
Yeah.
exactly what they want. They want it to get cleared out and then force him into a tough ISO shot
Mm,
because that's literally like the Celtics. Everyone knows the Celtics play best when they play actual team ball and they're passing it around and whatever.
mm.
And their ISO game is rubber. It's like them from like 3 years ago when they just ISO'd it all the time.
Oh man. Well, all right. So we talked about Eric Spo, and I think we have to talk about Coach Bud. It's time to have the discussion. So obviously, R.I.P. Coach Bud,
Just
gone
good
but not
riddance.
forgotten.
Mate, get Green Day's tummy of life going, mate. I mean, this guy, I don't want to get too heated up, but like, look, he had a good couple of seasons. The thing that people forget, I think, is that, and I don't know if you remember this, he was on the chopping block right before we won the championship a few years
Mhm.
ago. Like, it felt like it's not often that after every playoff elimination, the coach is up for his job. And I think it was the fact that we could have almost three-peated. Like, we could have definitely gone back to back. We could have almost three-peated, but like, he's just so stubborn.
Mm.
And teams have for like 4 years, bro. And I told you this a few years ago. For like 4 years now, however long it's been, different NBA teams have broken their record in most threes against the Bucks, or most like franchise threes in a game, and it's always against the Bucks because we just like leave them wide open and drop coverage, all that kind of crap.
So how did you? Can I get though? How did you? Do you feel like it was a good decision to fire him?
Um, I kind of would have wished that it didn't have to get there. I kind of would have wished that like maybe they had a conversation with him after it, like last season's exit to like do more adjustments because we have a really deep team. So I wish he didn't have to get fired, but I think that he just didn't listen for like 4 seasons. Do you know what I mean? And so yeah, kind of. I think we need that for like we need some freshness in the team. So yeah, I
Mm.
think it's a tough yes. It's a light to medium yes.
We're on a scale of 1 to 10. We're at a 5.3.
Yeah. Yeah, what's your take?
No, I definitely thought it was time. I actually
Yeah, man.
I've been kind of pro at a couple seasons. I was definitely in the 2021 season when we won the championship. I was kind of in the for the whole playoffs. Let's fire Bud, only
Do you
because
remember the Brooklyn series?
yeah,
Like when
yeah,
KD dropped 50 like 6 times in a row, and it was like we literally won out of luck.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I just had to bring that up. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, go on.
So with Bud, I felt like the problem is the thing that really got him is that every time, every season, the biggest criticism has always been the same thing. Like it's not like
Yeah,
each season it's a different thing. Like, oh, this season he let the other team shoot too many threes. This season he let them get too many layups. It's
yeah,
not like that. It's the same
no,
thing every time. It's he's stubborn and he can't make adjustments on the fly. And I think, I was thinking about it when I was watching the Heat series, and I'm like, to some degree, because the Bucks are way more talented, but this just became a Spo MVP
yeah,
series.
yeah,
Because it was, and it kind of also brings into question what is an NBA coach, because what Bud was doing was playing the numbers. He's like, just we're going to use the law of averages. This is
yeah,
what I was hearing. It's like
yeah,
he uses the law of averages. If they always do this thing, statistically, this is going to happen, and it's going to happen out
yeah,
over a larger sample size, what have you. Um, and to me, that's what a robot could do, and that's not really what a coach should do. Like a coach should be someone who can come up with unique ways to look at a problem and adjust. And let's try this.
yeah,
Let's empower these two players and get this happening. This person's playing on the other team really well. How many ways can we attack this same problem? Whereas with
yeah,
Bud, it was almost like a robot had designed the stuff and was
yeah,
just allowing the law of averages to take control. And
yeah,
I think when you've got another person on the other side who actually can look at that and go, okay, let me adjust, and you don't have the counter to their counter, then you're
yeah.
gonna lose. You
And
know?
that's what happened, mate. And
Yeah.
the thing, like, he just just look at the thing that this is the proof in the pudding, mate. Brook dropped a career playoff high in points. Middleton averaged like 20. Giannis averaged like maybe 30, like high 20. Drew didn't have a great series, but it wasn't the worst series. I mean, he was still like on his assist average and all that kind of thing. So I guess my point is that like the players played well, but as a team, they weren't coached well enough. And my thing is like our 3 stars more or less did what they were meant to do, but because he didn't play any of our honestly, even Grayson Allen had an all right series. Dude was hitting threes. Dude had a few good dunks. Like he just didn't adjust and play all the people on the bench that he should have played. Didn't double team, didn't do all the things we've already said a bunch of times. So yeah, that's the thing. Like proof of the pudding is like I don't think many people actually have like Middleton on the chopping block or Drew or Giannis. You know what I mean? They're like, well, they played all right. They played pretty good considering all things. And that for me is like, yeah, well, coaching.
Yeah. And also just before we get off the Bud chat, I was listening to a podcast and they were saying that they didn't think Nick Nurse would be a good coach. For people that have been looking around, the coaches that are being floated around, Frank Vogel, Nick Nurse, maybe I saw one today that someone was thinking Ty Lue, because apparently the Clippers thing has gone a little weird. So that's another name to kind of throw in the ring there. But anyway,
I actually like that.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I actually like that. I think Nick Nurse might be better just because I feel like big market coach. There's like a big market coach and a small market coach, and it's an attitude thing. And no, it's not always the case. To be fair, there's always exceptions. But like, I just feel like Nick Nurse, like he's not going to come with all the pomp. Do you know what I mean? And I think he would be a good fit. But Ty Lue, I don't know, dude. Like, I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate a little bit of pizzazz. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that the thing that the Bucks need to take into consideration, in my opinion, with this next coach is one of 2 things. One is it like the coach that Michael Jordan had before Phil Jackson? Yep. Like, do we need to get a Phil Jackson cerebral? I'm trying to motivate players in different ways. How can I get Rodman to buy in every game and understand it at that really high level? Or do we just need someone who's super creative and assume that all the players are going to buy in, which I think is true. I do think that Giannis will happily be a role player for a couple plays to get, Drew open looks, and things like that. And if that's the case, then I think Nick Nurse is probably a good choice because we know he's creative. We know he's adaptable. He's the one that put Kawhi on Giannis in the Toronto series, that ended up basically being the key decision that Bud couldn't adjust from.
3-1 too.
Yeah.
Lest we forget, 3-1.
So I think that Nick Nurse makes sense. But I think Ty Lue does kind of have that top level stuff as well. I think he can dabble into it. He's won with LeBron and he's been a good coach pretty much everywhere he's been. Always gets winning records and I always feel like he does really well. So I think those 2 I'm feeling pretty good about. How are you feeling about it? Like, sorry, just quickly. One thing that this podcast was saying, Nick Nurse isn't a good choice. For some reason, they're like, the Bucks, I know they had the number 1 defense all year. Maybe they needed another defensive coach, Frank Vogel, And I was like, I can see kind of like to sustain that. But anyway, what do you think about the coaching situation?
Yeah, I'm going to have to land with Nick Nurse on this one. I just think we need a fresh face he neutralized Giannis in that series. And so in my head, I'm like, well, he's probably going to be the best one to unlock Giannis in some sense. I think that he's most likely to come. I don't think Ty Lue would rebound to Milwaukee that much, to be honest with you. Frank Vogel, I don't know. I just don't think he's that good.
Yeah, me either. I'm kind of with you. I think he's okay.
Like, what's on his requisite kind of not experience, but even just what's the proof that you've done the job that needs to get done? Do you know what I mean?
He did take the Lakers to the 2020 bubble championship.
He did. That's a fair cop. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's coaching the Lakers different coaching the Bucks. Having said that, the current coach for the Lakers, let's not forget, he is a a Buck coach alumni in some sense. And that's working out pretty well. So maybe I'm talking a bunch of rubbish, but I'm landing with the nurse, mate.
I also feel like Darvin Ham. I wish he was our coach. He seems great.
Yeah, he would be great. He would actually, and he would be a perfect like being under Bud's wing, but kind of can step up and take it in a new direction. I would actually have frothed that as a decision. I didn't even know who our backup. Who's the assistant coach now? I don't even know
I
who it is.
I don't know his name, but I do know that he's up for a lot of jobs this year. So
Oh,
he might be the next Darvin Ham as well. So we might see him in the playoffs later than the Bucks
I,
next year.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, they're probably not going to make a decision, I think, for maybe another, like until the playoffs end. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I'm optimistic though, mate. I think that we need to get a few more like six. We've got like some really great pieces off the bench, but I think that our core are just going to get older. Like, I feel like Khris played good, but he just feels beat up.
Mm.
And same with Lopez. I just don't know contractually how they're going to make that work. Like, I actually think he's playing some of the best basketball of his life. But in my head, I'm like, dude just wants to get it back. Like, he's going to pull an Al Horford who went to Philly sort of move and get paid like stupid amount of money and go and play in like Portland. Do you know what I mean? I can just see him because I don't think he'll take the veteran 1 year minimum. Like, he'll want money. Do you know what I mean?
Dude, 100%. Honestly, he's one of the best centers in the league. He just does everything you need a center to do in 2023, 24, you know?
Yeah. And we can't afford him.
Yeah. So you're right, though. He was playing some of his best basketball. Yeah, geez. And yeah, I don't know. With Khris, like to me, Khris is a perfect piece. And this might even lead me into another segment I was thinking about talking with you about, which is people that need to be traded to become good. So I think that this is a thing that happens in the NBA. And you see it a lot. And it's not that I don't think they knew they had it in them, but I think that some people, once they get traded, they understand that they're disposable and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to do this for me now. And it changes their approach to being in basketball. Mikal Bridges, obviously a good example. I think that Markelle Fultz also is kind of a good example of that. And I actually kind of, what's that? Brunson?
Brogdon.
Oh, Brogdon.
No,
Brogdon and Brunson, honestly, both of them. And I kind of think it's happening a little bit with D'Lo. This thing, there's a little bit of that for me, but I kind of feel like Khris Middleton is kind of like that. Like I think it's what happened with Drew when Drew came to the Bucks. It's kind of a different scenario, but I think that was a trade makes him want it more. You know, know what I'm doing. It's not for the team. I'm trying to be the best version of me now. And I kind of can see Khris being like, if he goes to another team, being the perfect veteran leader, point forward, hits timely shots. Like if we trade him, he'll devastate us at some point.
Imagine, he would cook, absolutely cook us. Imagine if he went to like almost like the Grizzlies as like a soothing balm. Do you know what I mean? Like almost as like a PR move. I could see that as like hey, we've got Khris Middleton. He's gonna get 20 start. He's gonna start on the wing and get 20 and just actually make that team lovable again. My goodness, though, if he got that kind of production, he would cook every night. Yeah, I don't know how much I actually love that for the Bucks, but I feel like we could trade maybe Khris Middleton and get like a Dame. I would like that, like another big piece. I just feel like Dame's not getting. He just doesn't feel as beat up as Khris, as though he's probably missed the same amount of games. Now I think about it, but.
I think with Dame, I think Dame would be fine with it. I think that could work. The only thing is I don't love that trade for Portland. Like it would have to be if Portland was getting that, they would probably want like
they'd want Grayson.
Yeah. Or like just like a couple of our younger players or some picks or stuff like that. Like it would be Middleton. I mean, which is fair enough, Middleton and stuff for Dame.
Yeah.
And then they would probably also flip Middleton for more picks, and then he'd go wherever, Like I could see him, who would be great on is OKC, like just calming veteran. If you need him, bring him out. Yeah.
I just feel like this has turned into an informal Agent Cody Banks for Khris Middleton. I could see him with Josh Giddey and Shai, like they would just they'd be a great backcourt. great wings. Yeah, I'd vibe that.
You know who else I like him on? Is like the Clippers.
Oh man, he would never do that.
Yeah.
I could never see that. People would just think that he's Paul George light, even though
Yeah.
he's better than Paul George. Let's be honest right now.
And
Um,
what do you think about if you could somehow get him onto the Nuggets? Man, they would just be unstoppable.
ooh. Yeah, I feel like the Nuggets they manage, and you see this on like talk back, inside the NBA and whatever. They get easy buckets, and
Mm.
that's why they win games because Jamal Murray can always hit that insane like step back.
Mm.
But Jokic is just setting up dudes just all the time with like layups and dunks,
Mm.
and that's how you win games.
Man. All right, Tommy, before we go, because we're approaching closing time here, I just want to get your thoughts on the let's just get your thoughts before we head into the finals. What are you seeing on either conference? And what do you like the finals? And then if you want, tell us who you think you've got winning a chip based on what you've seen this postseason.
I still like Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I like Denver over the Suns just because I think that they've got the staying power, whereas Suns are all like front loaded.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they'll win. I actually think LeBron will make it to the conference finals, but then I think they'll just get schooled by the Joker. I think everyone's going to go and think it's going to be some crazy seven game series. I think at best the Lakers might steal one at home and make it a 5-gamer, and it'll be a gentleman's sweep. Jokic will just like absolutely torch them. So I see that in the West. As for the East, my pick, yeah, like we said, Heat over New York, and then I kind of like the Heat's chances more against Philly.
Mm.
So I kind of want Philly to make it. Also, I really hate the Celtics. I do really hate Philly, but there's people on that team that I like maybe a little bit more. But I think that I think it'll be a Celtics Nuggets final, and I do think that the Nuggets will pull it off, and I'll love that because the Celtics will be humiliated again in the finals, and that will be even better than the Nuggets winning. So there you go. What's your take, mate?
Before we get to me, Tommy, I've got to ask, every time you see Malcolm Brogdon play well, how do you react? I just can't even imagine.
And here's the thing, mate. He's such a good player. He fits so well in our system in the Bucks. And like he was so underutilized in India, and now they've actually worked out how to use him in Boston. I'm just so mad about it because he's a great player. He's perfect sixth man. Obviously, that's why he can defend. Dude's a sniper. Great finishing at the rim game. Like so underrated. Those I don't know if you've seen those sort of like inside hand like layups that he's got going on. Deadly. Absolutely deadly. So I can't believe we freaking traded him away. I don't know. In my dreams, he comes back somehow. And he's like guard off the bench, which I would love.
Oh, well.
Here we are.
A boy can dream. Look, I honestly, the way I see it is it's Miami. I actually kind of, in my heart, part of me is feeling like Miami's going to make the finals and lose. Part of me is just feeling like that there's just the bully potential that's too high. The only thing I don't like is that Jimmy is already a little bit injured. So I kind of like, I feel like they're really him going down away from just being swept, So yeah. So I don't know, but I'm going to put that in as a sort of bit of a long shot. And I'm going to say, I feel like I'm going to say it's a Phoenix Heat.
Wow.
And I'm just saying that because I feel like Phoenix is starting to unlock something. As I'm watching them, I'm starting to see, they're on a bit of a roll in the way that the Lakers are kind of a little bit on a roll. And you're like, okay, I'm seeing the momentum now. Yeah.
Yeah. I do know what you mean. Like, and it almost feels like Booker could single-handedly, like, get them all the way there. And because they've got KD, it's like, that's a fair call. Yeah.
Well, that's our time, mate. The sirens are going off. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening to Hypotheticals. The numbers, like I've said, are just outrageous. So please and stop looking for us. We're in undisclosed locations. That's all I'm going to say. But until next time, Finn.
Finn.